Hello class and welcome to today's lecture. In this lecture we're going to be discussing compensation and rewards. So let's get started. Total rewards refers to the entire compensation package that employers provide to employees. This includes your paycheck that you get. It also includes the benefits that you get, time off, vacation, any benefit that you receive from the employer. It's considered part of your compensation package. So that's why the word total rewards is used, because it gets people to think about more than just their annual salary, but to think about healthcare, stock purchases, or educational benefits, the entire monetary and non-monetary rewards provided by the company in order to attract employees to come and work for them and to stay with them. So this is what total rewards refers to. Taking a closer look at the idea of total rewards, this slide breaks down compensation, so wages, salary, bonuses, incentives, stock options, etc. And then it also breaks down benefits, so health benefits, liability, life and disability, insurance, paid time off, recruitment, retirement, pension plans, educational assistance, work-life support, etc. And then you have other types of benefits that employees receive, such as career development, performance appraisals, goal setting, succession planning, et cetera, et cetera. So this represents the totality of benefits that employees receive from um, employers in what we call total compensation. As companies set out to establish their compensation model, there's really two very opposing philosophies. One is a philosophy of entitlement, where everybody, because you're working for the company, because you are an employee of the firm, you're entitled to certain benefits and certain rewards. And the other perspective is one based on performance. So a merit-based approach where you get rewards as you earn them or because you've earned them. In an entitlement-based approach, management may design their compensation model in a way that rewards people because of their seniority, their longevity at the company. Everybody gets a pay raise annually, based on some percentage or so. Maybe some people get a little bit higher performance raise, but um, others, you'll still get a raise even just because they're employees of the firm. Holiday bonuses, if they're given out, they're given out to everybody. And once again, the amounts may vary depending on a person's role, but everybody gets them. So you can see that this is more of an entitlement philosophy, where because you're an employee of the firm, you're entitled to these benefits and compensation. The other perspective is performance oriented. And in this perspective, people don't get rewards just because they've been with the company for a long time. There's no raises given out to people except for performance based. So if you're performing really well, then you're entitled to a raise. If your performance is poor, then you're not entitled to a raise. They may make adjustments to salary structures based on the marketplace, but certainly not because of something that employee has done or hasn't done, okay, unless it's performance oriented. So you can see here, pay is linked to performance targets. So if you want to get that bigger bonus, then you need to improve your performance and hit a bigger performance target. You've seen this delineation throughout the entire semester, what the HR unit does and what managers do. So when it comes to compensation, the HR department, they administer the pay system, they help design it and develop it. They evaluate the compensation that each employee is getting to make sure that it's in line with the marketplace. And they develop policies and procedures to help reinforce and educate employees on the compensation program within the organization. Hiring managers help to identify job descriptions and concerns. They work with HR to determine what's the right compensation for various job models, for various jobs that are started within the firm. They recommend pay raises and pay increases for employees based off of performance or some other criteria. And they also evaluate and provide feedback regarding employee perceptions about pay. When it comes to designing a compensation system, one of the most important components is fairness and equity. There's a couple different ways that HR departments go about determining this. One is external equity. This refers to comparing a job to comparing the salary of a specific job to the salary of that same job at other companies. So you can buy reports that will tell you what a marketing manager should make, what a HR manager should get paid, and so on and so forth. So HR departments regularly go out and do surveys or buy reports to make sure that what they're paying their managers is comparable to what's being paid out in the industry. And we call that external pay equity. Internal pay equity means that you're looking inside the company and you're making sure that two individuals who are doing essentially the same job are getting paid the same amount, or that there are any differences in compensation is something that's justifiable by the law. To this extent, if people have concerns about their pay and their compensation not being fair, they can report that, or they have a procedural justice policy that they can follow. They can go to HR, they can request an audit, a review, request a raise, and have it be considered from there. There's a lot of controversy over this. At least there was earlier, not so much anymore, about pay secrecy or pay openness. It's kind of by default, many people in America at least, we're pretty secretive about our pay. We don't tell other people what we're making. Whereas some companies try to facilitate the culture of publishing what everybody makes. This way, you know how much you make in relation to the other employee. So there's benefits and drawback to pay secrecy versus pay openness. We're not going to get into that too deeply in this lecture, though. When it comes to being competitive with your compensation, there are several strategies that organizations can use. One is a meet the market strategy. So this is where an organization wants to just pay the average compensation that other firms are paying for the same work. So they just try to meet the strategy. The other is called lag the market. This means that they're going to pay a little bit less than what the average salary is for that job. And then the other strategy is called lead the market. In this strategy, organizations are willing to pay a bit more. They're paying a premium for employees who are working the same job. Now, taking a look across all three of these strategies, you can almost guess the quality of work that people get. So the companies that have a lead the strategy perspective and approach to business, they're the ones going to attract the top talent. The ones that have the lag the market strategy, these are the guys that are going to attract the less than top talent, right? And the folks who have the meet the market strategy, they're attracting employees that are just average. You also want to consider developing compensations to reward people based on whether you want individual performance or team performance. And if you're going to have team performance as one of your major outcomes, then you need to consider adjusting your compensation model to reward people as a team as opposed to rewarding them as individuals. Also, in this economy, we are becoming more and more global. Companies are operating increasingly in multiple countries and across a number of different nation states. To this extent, you have employees who are expatriates who are out working in different countries. So you want to consider what should the compensation look like for those employees because of the undue hardship they're taking on by working in another country. So should there be hardship premiums? How will you compensate them for moving and relocation allowances? Should there be cost of living adjustments if a particular country is more expensive or less expensive? Should there be educational allowances for children? So it's going to inevitably cost you more money to send your child to school. So should the company provide some type of educational compensation for that? Many companies do, by the way, but these are all things you want to consider when you're structuring global compensation. Continue the discussion about compensating expatriates. There are three different challenges or issues that need to be considered. One is basically, how much do I decide to pay a person for this particular work? Should I pay them based off of what our balance sheet allows? Should I pay them based off of a global market approach? So I do a global survey to see what people are getting paid for this type of position overseas. And then tax equalization plan. I got to figure out ways to help the expatriate deal with their tax issues. So there'd be additional compensation set aside to help them with that as well, because now they're working in one country paying taxes ideally in, most likely in both countries, and should there be some additional support for the employees when it comes to taxes. There are some constraints legally, certainly in the United States, and these laws all pertain to the United States, that organizations should be aware of. One is a minimum wage law. This states that there's a wage that employers cannot charge less than, cannot pay less than. So it sets a minimum standard of wages that employers must pay to their employees. There are child labor laws and provisions, namely stating that certain age that children are able to work, and and the type of working conditions that children need. They need to be safe and secure if you're going to have children working. Exempt and non-exempt statuses, what this refers to is basically whether a person is going to get paid overtime or not. If you're exempt, you don't get paid overtime. If you're non-exempt, then you get paid overtime. Anything over 40 hours would be considered overtime and overtime pay. Taking a closer look at the law, here are some of the acts that have been passed by Congress. So you have the Davis-Bacon Act and the McNamara-O'Hare Act. These are laws that require companies that are working contracts issued by the government to pay a fair and living wage to their employees. Both of these laws focus on contract workers who are working contracts for the U.S. government. The Equal Pay Act of 1963, which states that all people should be paid equally in regards to their gender or race status. You have the local laws, which can differ from one state to another state, and then garnishment laws. These are laws which allows the government, the IRS, to actually garnish people's paychecks should they not fulfill their tax obligations. That wraps it up for this lecture. If you have any questions, be sure to send me an email. Thank you very much.